After years of visiting Disney World, we thought we knew exactly what to expect when we booked our trip to Disneyland Paris.
We had done our research and we felt ready, but even with all of that experience, the park still managed to surprise us in some pretty good ways. It's familiar enough that it feels like home, yet different enough that a few inside tips might go a long way. We're sharing 7 things we learned that I think will help you transition from the Florida humidity to the French charm without missing a beat.
Yeah, whether it's secret walkways or a total shift in how the app works, these are the little details that made our trip even better.
When you're planning a trip to Disneyland Paris, one of the first things you need to figure out is how you're going to get there. We decided to use the RER Train, not just because it's convenient from downtown Paris, but because it drops you off at Disneyland Paris.
Yes, it does.
We ended up taking a cab to a major hub, Nation. The station ensured that we would have elevator access with our bags. If you are carrying bags, just keep in mind, not every station has elevators or escalators to get you down to the platform. We paid using our Navigo Easy card, which was really simple because we had zones 1 through 5. Disneyland Paris is in zone 5, so as long as you have that covered, you shouldn't have a problem. We did have one issue that kind of surprised us, though.
Yes, always go through the handicap accessible or just the larger door versus the turnstiles with your luggage. Because I thought, well, I can maybe squeeze through and make this fit, but just my bag got through the turnstile and I had to buy a separate ticket for myself.
Yeah, it spun the turnstile just for the bag. I would say a couple other tips. We timed our train departure for around 10 a.m. This allowed us to miss the rush hour because the trains do get busy, and when you're bringing a few bags on, there isn't bag storage on the RER. You'll want to make sure that there's some extra seats, and you don't want to be rude and take up 4 seats for 2 people.
Yeah.
And finally, one really neat thing. When you get to the stations and you aren't sure what train to take, look for the Mickey head.
Yeah.
They have a Mickey head icon right next to the correct train. It gave a perfect visual indication that we were on the right track.
Right.
Pun intended.
Our second tip is something that I learned while booking our room on Disney property. One of the perks that they have is the Disney Express luggage service. Right there in the train station, they take your bags and they will bring it to your resort and they give you your tickets so you can get on with your day.
Yeah, it was a really smooth experience for us. When you get in the train station, you just head all the way up to the top floor. And if you get up to the top, to the right, they'll have the Disney Express drop-off area. When we got there, they were closed. And so I had a moment of panic where I thought maybe we had misunderstood what was happening. But if you just walk down the hallway, the luggage area was open, and there were some great folks there ready to help us get our day started. At the end of your stay, when you're ready to drop your luggage off and go have one more day in the park, in your hotel, they'll have an area that you bring your bags to. Now, it's going to be pretty busy, so plan a little extra time. It took us about a half hour to get through the line to drop our bags. But once you've done that, you go off and enjoy your day. And when you're ready, head to the train station and they'll be ready for you to pick up and head back to Paris. If you're used to Disney World, one of the things you may notice about Disneyland Paris is that there's some different ways to get around. When you get to the park, the first thing you'll notice is that you enter by walking directly underneath the Disneyland Hotel. I thought that was a really neat way to create kind of a grand sense of arrival.
Sure, yeah.
And once you get inside the park, there's actually some other ways to get around that you might not be familiar with.
Yeah, they have really cool walkways that actually bypasses Main Street. They're called arcades, the Liberty and the Discovery, and they walk behind Main Street businesses so that you don't have to dodge your way through all of the gift shops if you're trying to get around a parade or just avoid the crowds.
There's also some other walkways that kind of get you around the park a little bit faster than at Disney World. If you're at Small World, there's a walkway that connects you all the way over to Tomorrowland. And that is something that saves you probably 10 minutes of walking compared to some of the other parks. They also have kind of an interesting way to get into the Disney Studio Park.
Yeah, that's kind of like entering a mall actually at first. It has kind of the vibe of, I'm going to say the Mexican pavilion at Epcot. They keep the lights really low and it's air conditioned and there's places to stop and eat along the way and shop. And then when you funnel your way through, then you're in the park.
Finding your way around the restaurants at Disneyland Paris will feel really familiar to what you've done at Disneyland or Walt Disney World. But there's a couple little things that I thought were different that I really enjoyed. The most unique thing there for me was probably Walt's, an American restaurant. What's cool about it is not that it's an American restaurant, but that it's on the second story of a Main Street business. And I've never been able to go up to the second story and actually eat at a window looking down on Main Street. I thought that was a really unique experience, and I'm glad we did it.
Right. And the food carts, you don't even have to go to the restaurant. They have like little food carts all over, but it feels kind of like a Christmas market. They have themed ones, like there was a German one that had bratwurst and sauerkraut, and there was obviously a crepes cart, and they had drinks all along the way everywhere. The food was amazing.
Yeah, the macaroons, the candied apples, it was
pretzels.
It was a really great variety of food, and I feel like it was slightly elevated over what we're used to for the standard food carts at Magic Kingdom. It felt a lot more like what the quality of food you'd get at Food and Wine Festival. Speaking of wine.
Yes. They sell champagne on Main Street, and it comes in a souvenir glass, which is plastic, so don't worry about getting it home on the plane. It will pack just fine.
Yeah, once we had it in hand, people kept asking us, where did you get the champagne? And it's right as you come out of the arcade at the end of Main Street. Just kind of look to the right as you're facing the castle, and you will find exactly what your day demands. For me, one of the biggest surprises about Disneyland Paris was that I felt like the roller coasters were actually a little bit more intense and kind of higher quality, especially Hyperspace Mountain and their version of Rock and Roller Coaster. They really felt to me like they went a little bit further in terms of the intensity of the ride, and as a roller coaster fan, I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't just the intensity of the rides. Some of them aren't even where we thought they would be.
Yeah, the Star Tours is actually at Disneyland instead of what I would have expected it to be over at the studios, because it's at Hollywood Studios in Florida. But Tomorrowland at Disneyland has all of the Star Wars stuff.
But Star Wars takes place in the past.
That's right, a long time ago.
Not tomorrow. And the ride was a little different.
It was. They had different storylines that Star Tours tracked. So if you're used to the one in Florida, you'll get to relive all different storylines in Disneyland Paris. They have their own.
Yeah. They also have some other storylines that are a little different. We went on the Phantom Manor, which is their version of Haunted Mansion. And while it feels very similar, it's definitely a little bit darker.
Right. The bride story is different than the one in the U.S. because I believe California and Florida are the same.
We don't want to give away what the difference is because it really is kind of an interesting surprise. But I would say if you are there and you're thinking, well, I've ridden it a bunch of times, definitely go on it. And this is true for really everything. Even Small World was quite different. Get all the rides you know because you'll get a whole new view of them all.
Our next tip is to download the Disneyland Paris app. It is totally separate from My Disney Experience. It is its own app.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was quite as polished as My Disney Experience. But it did do a really good job of providing access to the Premier Access package and being able to purchase ride entries throughout the day. Which to me felt a little bit different than Walt Disney World. This is a smaller park, and I do think things can fill up on busy days a little bit faster. So, if you're going to a busy season, there's a pretty good chance you're going to want to get some of those Premier Accesses. So make sure you have the app and understand how buying those tickets ahead of time works. It's also really essential for navigating the park because not everything is where you're used to it being. And there's quite a few times where we had to just kind of pull it out and scratch our heads and say, where is that? Because I know where it is at Disney World and it's not there.
Right, and it has all the restaurants too, so you'll be able to find the food that's around you.
The other thing that I think is probably the most important tip that we'll have is if you're staying at a Disney hotel, it is much faster to just walk.
It is.
You're going to be so used to taking the shuttles from your experiences at other Disney properties, but you will spend more time waiting for the shuttle than it would just take you to walk to Newport Bay or to New York. Just keep an eye on the weather and think about your own personal needs. Obviously, some folks may not have this as an option, but if you can, You're going to find it faster, and honestly, the walk is really nice.
It is.
You go through Disney Village.
Yep, over the bridge, past the big balloon, all of the other... Well, we stayed at Newport, which is the furthest one. So we passed all the other resorts on our way, and at one point we even dipped into Sequoia and had a drink at their bar. And it was just kind of killing time.
I tell you what, I'll post a video of our walk from Newport with a timer to show exactly how long it takes, and we'll link it up here. But I really think that if you're thinking to take the shuttle just because it's what you're used to, honestly, you'll spend just as much time getting to it as you would just walking back to your hotel. Disneyland Paris was just such a fun and unique experience, and we're so glad we took the leap to go. While it felt like we were learning a new language at times, these 7 lessons really kind of helped us lean into the magic with less stress. The in-park experiences and the little convenience factors, they really added value to our vacation, and it's what we kind of look for.
If you've been to the Paris parks, what was the one thing that surprised you the most? Or if you're planning your first trip, which of these tips was most helpful? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this look at our latest adventure, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our community of travelers. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the parks.
Bye!